Thank you, Kevin. Hello, all. It's post-lunch time, a difficult time, we understand. So we hope that we will keep you awake with our today's topic about how AI can enhance data-driven decisions in the shipping industry and what companies can do towards this continuous change that is currently happening in our world. So thank you all. We can start. Ladies first, Stella. So with your great experience in the shipping companies, could you just tell us how have you seen the processing of data, commercial and operational, changing and evolving during the past years? And how the AI is really affecting this topic.
Καλησπέρα. Thank you very much, Alkistis. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, and this brings us to the heart of the changes that we have seen in the last decade. Actually, not long time ago, data used to be more deterministic. Users used to be more focused on more structure and predicted data like AIS positions, vessel particulars, noon reports, but this has changed by a lot. Now, in order to compete, you have to have access to a live dynamic dashboards monitoring the global fleet, not only the vessels that you manage in your company. And a static report, it's not good enough. And by saying this, the evolution is coming not only from the volume of the data, but also of the nature of the data. So most important commercial information is not coming only from structured data, but mainly from conversations. So in platforms like, most companies are using WhatsApp, Teams, more modern companies are using Slack. So until recently, it was impossible to capture this kind of information that used to be many times conflicting, incomplete, and certainly totally unstructured. So this is now possible, and this is the major improvement that we have seen, that now we have the capability to extract and process systematically this information. So we have tools like bots that give our clients the option to capture this information from their chats and blend together with other more static information to get a better commercial decision. So when we started Signal, we used to be kind of weird with being so focused on AI stuff, but now the game has changed. Everybody is very technology and AI focused, and it's not the competitive advantage is not about having data. It's about having a sophisticated technology to process the data. And it's more of a technology race nowadays. So in order to be competitive, you don't have to be just on the data side, but to be really AI focused.
Thank you, Stella. And speaking about AI focused, let's move to Konstantinos. Konstantinos, you are leading one of the pioneer companies that provide AI-driven solution for vessel optimization. Could you tell us a tangible example of the impacts that you see that the service you are providing has to your clients?
Yeah, so I think the most tangible impact comes on the voyage optimization side. Because there you can measure it voyage by voyage exactly how much money and CO2 you're saving. And there you can really see the difference that comes from having AI in the optimization because of how much more data you can synthesize. So we throw in all of the vessel's history, understands all of the physics of the vessel, understands the current state of the vessel, the current fouling state of the vessel. It's got a weather forecast. It knows the loading, and then it knows the bunker fuel price. It knows what the market TC is, and it can tell you when to arrive, what combination of speeds to take, what routes to take. So there we see we can kind of consistently shave off, depending on the type of vessel, from 5 all the way up to over 12% of costs, right, just on voyage optimization. And then this becomes even more powerful once you combine it with autonomy. So once you're able to take the optimized instructions and kind of dynamically re-optimize them and then feed them straight into the engine and the autopilot with a human in the loop in a clever way, you can really get more and more cost off. So that's the most tangible impact. I would say it's not necessarily the biggest impact. I actually think the biggest impact is in areas that are less tangible, right? So it's in having a single source of truth within your organization, having data that has been cleaned, that has been synchronized, that you know it's correct, using it to evaluate, for example, an energy-saving device, knowing what is the real impact of an energy-saving device. So you have an energy-saving device which claims it saves you 5% on fuel. It probably does, but only at certain speeds. And if you go at different speeds, it might actually increase your fuel consumption, right? And so being able to accurately understand what are all the factors that are impacting the outcome with a powerful enough model that can take anything into account, the decisions you can make long term, so the decisions not that the system makes, but that you make because you have the system, can end up being much more valuable than anything you get even from the voyage optimization.
Thank you, Konstantinos. So, Kimon, utilizing your double identity as an academic and a consulting, could you give us a perspective about how can AI-driven decisions be applied in shipping?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone, first. I'll start with a disclaimer that I'm not in the shipping industry, so I know it's a red flag for the crowd here, but I'll do my best. So I'll start with a 30,000 feet view of things. I feel in these discussions and in my limited exposure to shipping that the vessel is the focal point. Why? Exactly as Konstantinos said, because it's very measurable and very tangible. But then today, like I'm being educated by all of you, I kind of feel that you are in the risk management industry, right? Your true business is risk. And who are the people who led the way in risk management? It's all the trading and hedge fund folks. And it's another example of an industry where predictions are usually meaningless unless you can really act fast on them. So decision cycle times is critical here. And that's where I am predicting that AI is going to have the most impact in your industry. And what do I mean by this? When you make your strategic decisions, my understanding from the interactions is that, okay, we understand that there is a lot of volatility in the market, like geopolitical volatility, weather, taking everything into account. So the way I hear people thinking about this is, oh, we need to analyze all the scenario we can. We need to come up with contingency plans. While why don't we change the paradigm a little bit and instead think about making decisions faster, making decisions quarterly or annually and coming up with annual plans in the age of AI and data-driven decisions feels not natural, right? And what are the bottlenecks here? Why this is not a trading setting? Of course, you have the physics limitations. You can, in order to go to the other side of the Pacific or the Atlantic, you need a few weeks. This is not going to change. It's not like trading. But then there are things that you can control, right? Your data ecosystem has to be healthy. And exactly like Stella said, that's your decision and is fairly easily fixable. The technology should be there, connecting with what Konstantinos said. You need to invest in that. But then you need to invest in your organizations, right? If you are still thinking about decision-making at a quarterly scale, while you have daily or weekly fairly accurate data, there is a mismatch there that one needs to work on. So I think changing a little bit the way we're thinking about AI, what I would say is that instead of using AI to improve our strategic decisions at the annual planning, let's try to shoot for not having annual planning and instead start making decisions at the daily or weekly level, leveraging these tools.
Thank you, Kimon. So now we're going to move to the client's perspective. everybody nowadays has access to Copilot, ChatGPT, so it's normal to have increased expectations from your systems and from the offerings that technology companies offer to their clients. How do you manage to balance and tackle all these, let's say, great and strict expectations?
Indeed, currently clients' expectations from technologies are at all times high, and the standards have been set outside of our industry. So, as you mentioned, Alkistis ChatGPT has set a very high target. So, we are all trained to. Actually, how many of you are using ChatGPT more than once per day? Okay.
Success.
So, we are trained to ask a question, a difficult question, and expect a coherent answer in a few minutes. So, we are trained to expect instant, valuable information coming from AI. So, our structure was, in first principles, built upon this. So back in 2017, we made the decision to do a live processing of private data for our clients. And initially, we shared this data through our platform, but we realized later that our sophisticated clients needed direct access and control to their data. So we developed our next product, which was the data warehouse, and we deliver this to our clients without having them to tackle with the complexity and the immense cost that it may cause. So they don't have to bother with servers, side costs, having dedicated engineering team. They have the power of our or their data, because actually we're processing their data, and they're being able to capture and work with them very, very easily. So they have live, always, a single reliable source of truth.
Nice. So you provide access and trustworthiness.
Exactly.
Konstantin, in your case, where you are using complex ML algorithms to provide the optimization vessel routing, how do you manage to communicate this and combine it with the trust and the transparency that you need to have with your clients?
Yeah. So there's really two aspects to this. I mean, the first is you've got to trust the result, right? So especially for the users that are on the vessel or that are kind of technical superintendents in very large organizations, at the end of the day, what they care about is that they're getting something that makes sense, that is safe, and that in the end, brings the savings that you want. So you can go a long way in building trust with that. But of course, if it's wrong once, then you lose that trust. But then there's also, especially when you're working with performance departments, when you're working with experts, where black box isn't good enough. They need a translucent box. They need to be able to understand what is your model? How is your model different from my analytical model? And so there, we've had to do a lot of work in making this highly complicated algorithm, which takes into account an enormous number of parameters that isn't possible to visualize, making it actually transparent. So being able to show, okay, all else being equal, this is what my model thinks is the power at every different speed in different drafts and winds. If I did this hypothetical optimization, this is what it would get. So tools that show forward to the customer what it is that the AI's view of the world is, and then how that impacts the instructions that it's given.
Thank you, Konstantin. So, Kimon, are there actually any metrics or KPIs that could clients use to quantify somehow the actual impact, also in financial impact, that AI has to their organization?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a question that everyone in AI is thinking about right now. So what I tell my students in class is there is always a CFO metric, which is whatever convinces the CFO. But joking aside, I'll start, and now I have a clash between my academic profile and my consulting profile, but I will go with what I think is correct. So there is a tendency right now to use as metrics like adoption, engagement, like accuracy metrics, but without a true interpretation. Which like it's easy for consultants to create dashboards and all of that, but in the end of the day, like okay, a common metric is I have deployed 17,000 agents. But then if you think about it, OpenAI has only deployed one or like four, and they are a $500 billion company. So it's easy to measure that I have deployed all these agents, or 92% of my organization is using AI one way or the other. But they are not really like depicting they're not really drawing the whole picture, because the fact that someone uses it doesn't mean that it works or it affects their decisions. So going back to my argument before that AI, especially in this industry, is a vehicle for decreasing volatility, there are some metrics that are good proxies for value, like actually seeing your earnings volatility decreasing over time, or doing proper counterfactuals with like synthetic control to understand the value. And of course, like Konstantinos said, there are some use cases where it's very clear. Like I'm spending less in fuel. That's a very clear metric. And a project that we're working on right now with the team is, working on digitizing vessel drawings automatically to save on time and save on money. That's a very clear. That's a very clear way of measuring. That's a very clear KPI. But I think that, and I'll conclude with this, that if as a stakeholder you hire someone, or internally in your organization you have a team working on an AI use case, if you cannot articulate a way to measure value, you should not invest on the project. It should always be value first. If there is no way of measuring, just don't do it. Yeah.
Clear. So, based on what you said, we provide to clients access to data. We provide them trustworthiness. Probably provide them some KPIs so we can then really measure the impact of what they are paying for. What would every one of you could advise to a client who's new to the AI idea? And we've seen that probably shipping clients are more traditional. They use the more descriptive data utilization. So I have specific numbers and I try to translate those. But how they can move from that to a more AI-driven future that could probably also affect other areas of interest, such as S&P or commercial operations.
So
it's a question to three of you.
So personally, I think that the future of AI is certainly towards AI agents. As you said, Copilot, it's something that is starting being used in many aspects. So, having the information, extracting, processing, and having it structured in a database inevitably leads you to the second step, that is to be able to discuss with your database in a natural language. So, and not being necessary to be a data analyst to get valuable insight. So imagine that you can ask the platform or your AI agent, what were the most profitable voyages in Atlantic the last quarter and why? And give you the detailed voyages, the pros and cons, and what was the strategy behind them. So this is the future, and certainly towards this direction, I think that the market is moving.
Thank you, Stella. Konstantinos?
Yeah, so for me, I think the two pieces of advice, not just for shipping, but kind of for anyone now, and this is also what we try to do ourselves, because we're not just a producer of AI, we're also a consumer of it. Number one, hold on to and collect as much of the data that's important to you as possible. So not just sensor data, but also things like documents, transactions, messages, communications internally. Anything that you can collect in a digital format at some point in the future will be useful to you. This is sort of your wealth. And then the second one is don't reinvent the wheel. Right? Don't try to do everything in-house yourself. Find people outside that either have already done it or can do it. I mean, we're an AI company, but whenever we've tried to make an internal AI for our own use, it has not gone well, right? If there's someone outside who's doing a chatbot, we use their chatbot. We don't try to make it.
Thank you, Konstantinos. And last but not least, Kimon.
So I'll start with an analogy that, again, like being an academic, we think abstractly, but I'll start with an analogy. And like, imagine you want to build a pool at your rooftop, like one of these very fancy rooftop pools. So it's very Instagrammable and like it's the right thing to do. But then you forgot to think about your plumbing and you forgot to think about structural integrity, right? So I think the equivalent, which is a trend these days, is okay. Starting today, I'm gonna hire an AI officer. I'm gonna form an AI team, and within the next year, I'm gonna be a fully AI embedded organization. I feel that this is like a recipe to fail. So, because why? You haven't worked on the foundations, right? So, I'll start with data, like Konstantinos said. Data has to be there, be fairly accurate, and I'll talk about this more in a little bit. And your integrations between teams and between data sources should be working. I think that if you start creating more silos than you already have, and your AI, whatever AI you use, does not ingest all the data in the organization, I feel that you're totally missing the point. So data is one. The second one that I'm still emphasizing, I'm a mathematician, like I'm an applied mathematician by training, so I never thought I would be saying this, but I actually think that the human factor here is huge. Why? A, because in the end of the day, this is a support tool. I think we're not too close to autonomy unless we're talking about simple decisions. And two, these tools tend to be created by engineers who think their own way. But then at the end of the day, the stakeholder thinks about a very specific decision problem, right? And they want their own parameters in there. So putting the organization across the board, making them part of the design process is critical here. So I cannot see a future where you can involve your stakeholders and your decision makers and be able to develop actual, like practically working AI systems within a year. So what do I mean by this? Go slow. Like pick one pain point, develop your first AI use case, and go from there instead of bombarding your organization with like 1,000 use cases. And this is the professor speaking, not the consultant speaking. The consultant speaking would say, yeah, no, go for 100 use cases. But I don't think it's the right way to go. And then going back to the data part, I think that obsessing about data accuracy, usually what I hear going to an organization or starting a project is that, oh, I cannot do AI because my data is not 100% there. I think the real breakthrough of the new technologies of the past like 3-4 years is that you can do pretty well with like 70% of your data there, right? Why? Because on top of your structured data, which could be like 80% there, now you have like multimodal abilities. You can add pictures, you can add voice, you can even add video. That I'm not like 100% there, but you have all these other modes of speaking with your AI that if you want to do S&P, which I'm now figuring out these terms, you have all this data from Signal, that's great, but then you just take pictures and extract insights. You connect it with satellite data to see the movements of the vessel over the past like 20 years. So it's okay if your data maturity is not at 100%. You should start experimenting with this now, but 1 or 2 cases at a time. I think that's the overall framework that I am operating by. Yeah.
So kind of accurate data and step by step, starting from your pain points, depending on the company. Thank you very much, all. Are we okay from a time point of view? I don't know if someone wants to ask something from the audience.
We have a few minutes. If anybody has a question, please. Any question from the audience? No, maybe one from me. 5 years from now, where are we going to be? How much is AI going to be part and parcel of Greek shipping companies' operations and everything else?
Who wants to start?
Personally, I think that it's getting closer and closer, and I think that it would be really integrated through the AI agents I mentioned before. I mean, that's the way that you ask and you get valuable insights from all this wealth of data that we're now in a position to capture and structure and process.
I think 5 years is not a long time. I think you'll be surprised how quickly that goes by. I think things like using LLMs in shipping, things like fully autonomous vessels. We'll have sort of the first examples out there adopted by some of the early adopters. But I honestly, I suspect the majority of the industry will maybe be at a slightly higher level of adoption of the current tools like the high frequency data collection and voyage optimization, this sort of thing. If you ask me 50 years, I'll give a much more interesting answer, I think. But maybe for a different panel.
So I'll go with a more conservative approach. I would think that for all back office operations and all vessel operations, the penetration will be dramatic. That's my feeling, right? Because back office is all about manual processes and rethinking about your processes, which is like the ultimate AI playground. What I'm not too optimistic about in that time frame, not overall, just to clarify, is that in more strategic decisions or revenue management, acquisitions, S&P, etc., I feel that there is this coordination between humans and AI that has to happen that will take a while. I don't think that people change that fast, for good or for bad reasons. So until we build that trust and those synergies between the decision makers and the algorithms and the AI, it's going to take a while. That's my feeling, yeah.
And I would like to add something. Based on my experience also in the shipping industry, I think it's very important to release time from your people, either on board or at shore. It's a lot of, you know that better than us, it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of stress. At first you try with an easy, let's say, use case that it's also understandable from your people, and then gradually move to the next steps. It does not have to be a super machine learning algorithm to solve all the cases. If you manage to free time from data processing, for example, if I just ask a question and an agent answers me, this is a win for the company. And you gradually getting better and better and manage to move to other more strategic decisions. That's from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.